present something to you that's going to hopefully make you think a little bit today. And I'm going to talk to you about the emotional organ. And it's not the one that many of you might be thinking about. It's a different emotional organ. And that emotional organ I'm talking about is your skin. Your skin is your largest organ. Your skin communicates. Your skin feels. It senses danger, beauty, fear. You've heard about the gut-brain axis, but now let's talk about the skin-brain axis. It's something that we really haven't talked much about, even though we know it's there. Do you know your skin and your brain both come from the same germinal layer of ectoderm? They evolved at the same time. Keep in mind that as humans, we've been evolving for quite some time. 3.5 million years, genus Homo. 250,000 years, Homo sapiens. We have a system that's been created to allow us to survive. And if we look at it from an evolutionary perspective, it's going to make a lot more sense why our skin is so important to sensing danger, beauty, risk, and those in our vicinity. You have over 5 million free neuronal cells within your skin. Some parts of your body have more free nerve endings than others. But all throughout your skin, you sense your environment. If you closed your eyes and you thought of yourself walking in a dark alley, a cat goes by, there's water dripping, you sense a looming danger, a fear. What happens to your skin when you're thinking of something fearful? Now, I will tell you, women are much better at this than men. Men aren't as good. We can't sense as well through our skin. But your pyruvate glands go up. Your hair stands up. Skin conductance goes up. You start to sweat a little bit. Your neurons become sensitized. Your eyes open up so you can get a better field of view. Your mouth opens up. You get more oxygen. All of this is happening at a subconscious level. You're not thinking about this. You have a process that's going on without your cortical brain. And is this because you see it? Do you see? Do you hear? Do you feel? What makes you recognize that this is danger here and your body needs to react? Most of us would say we use our 5 senses, because we know our 5 senses. But what if I told you that blind people who can't see anything in this area would also know that there's danger? What tips them off to there's danger? So I was listening to a podcast about 5 or 6 years ago, and I started getting interested in this because they were talking about how blind people can detect danger. I thought that was really interesting. Even though they can't see it, they can detect it. I was like, well, how does that happen? Where's the sense that they have that they can detect danger around the corner? And it's not intuitive. But now there's a plethora of studies that show that, yeah, it's partially understood, but it's there. We have embodied senses. And it works at an extragenicular level. It works in your midbrain. Your retina can communicate with your midbrain, which can communicate with your autonomic nervous system, which allows you to respond to fear. This all happens without you recognizing. Nothing goes to your cortical brain. And think about it. Reptiles know how to escape danger. Insects know how to escape danger. So this is something that's evolutionarily preserved, the ability to escape danger, risk. Because survival is the name of the game. We're all here on Earth for one reason and one reason only. From a biological perspective, not from a spiritual, not from a religious perspective. From a biological perspective, you're here to procreate your genes. Your genes need to survive. So our systems are created so our genes survive. So keeping our genes alive is being able to detect risk so we can evade. A few years ago, I wrote a book on the science of beauty. And I dove knee-deep into the science of beauty. And what I also learned is that fear or risk is processed in the amygdala, so is beauty. Beauty is processed in the same part of the body as fear. So if fear is detected in blind people, and this was my hunch back then, can blind people detect beauty if it's also processed in the amygdala at a subconscious level? Is beauty something that we don't think about, that we feel? And the answer to that question is yes. We did a pilot study to try to prove that. And I presented on that here a few years ago, and the paper I can get to you if you have interest in seeing it, but something like this. I don't want to go through the details of the study, but we had blind people with 2400 vision sit next to women for 30 seconds, and they had to rate them. And then we had people with normal vision do the same thing. It was consistent. The blind people, unbelievably, was consistent with their ratings of beauty. Your skin-brain is a connection. It's a sixth sense. I'm going to argue that we have another sense. We communicate with our skin and our brain subconsciously. We don't even realize it's going on, but it's there. Now, some people call it energy. Oh, he's got great energy. She's got great energy. What is that energy? I want to know, does that energy really exist? We all feel it. You're in the presence of someone. Like, that person's got energy. What are you picking up on? Something, right? We all kind of know that there's something there. Let me give you an analogy. 20 years ago, if you're sitting in Starbucks and I said to you, guess what? You can communicate with someone in real time right now with someone in Uzbekistan. You can send them an email and they're going to get it in 2 seconds and they're going to communicate with you back and forth. You'd be like, how? I have to call them up, right? No. It's going to go through Wi-Fi. You'd be like, what? Wi-Fi. You know, Wi-Fi? You'd be like, I don't get it. What's Wi-Fi? I can communicate with someone? You would never believe that there's these Wi-Fi energy waves all around you. I'm going to say we have communication ability between us that we have yet to define, but that we all know exists. It's there. And where this has become more important is because of AI. AI can outcompute all of us right now, but it can't outfeel us. We have the ability to feel each other. AI can't. Robots are not embodied. Robots struggle because they don't have nerve endings. They don't have an autonomic nervous system that communicates with their skin subconsciously. And this is where we differentiate ourselves from AI. I have a dream that one day there's going to be a Tom Cruise movie, and he's going to save the world from AI robots, and the way he's going to save the world is he's going to communicate with the other humans by standing next to them. We're going to learn to develop this ability to communicate with each other. Would you be surprised if I told you within your skin sit all these neuropeptides, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin? These are all in your skin. They're processed in your skin, produced in your skin, they're picked up in your skin, they're sensed in your skin. Now we know this, right? Because you sit in the sun, it feels pretty darn good. Why does the sun feel good? Your serotonin levels go up. We also know there's norepinephrine in our skin, right? We treat rosacea. Don't we treat rosacea with neurotoxin? We use neurotoxin as well to inhibit acetylcholine, which is also in your skin, but that may work as well to help with wound healing. So we recognize that there's these neuropeptides in the skin, but we've never really taken advantage of that. So of all the neurotransmitters, I want to talk about this one because this is the one that's been fascinating me recently. If you look into this neuropeptide, it's really amazing. It's produced in your skin. There's receptors on your fibroblasts, on your keratinocytes, and it's also produced in the HPA axis, right? It's produced in the hypothalamus, released from the pituitary gland. It improves tissue and wound healing. We know about that. We have studies on it. Certainly in flap surgery, we can show that oxytocin helps with wound healing. As oxytocin levels go up, skin aging level scores go down, senescence of skin cells go down. It's anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. It's an angiogenic. As I said before, used in wound healing. It reduces IL-6. It reduces other inflammatory markers. So there's many, many studies in the wound healing literature about oxytocin being used to help wounds to heal faster. So it's been noted to be good for skin, and it might be partially due to insulin-like growth factor, which goes up, which, wow, that can be beneficial, especially in the patients who are on GLP-1s, in which this goes down, so we need this to go up. So there's a lot of benefits to the skin with oxytocin. But there's something else that oxytocin does, and nobody is more beautiful than a pregnant woman. She's gorgeous. A pregnant woman's bountiful with oxytocin. What else does oxytocin do? It's a love hormone. How many people know it is the love hormone? Helps with parturition, lactation, and memory. Women actually remember better when their oxytocin levels go higher. During pregnancy, it's critically important. It actually reduces pain. Because when you're delivering a baby, you need to have less pain. Your oxytocin levels go up. It also helps during lactation. Reduces nipple pain. It's an anxiolytic. It's a euphoria. People actually feel better when their oxytocin levels go higher. Women will tell you that when they breastfeed, it's one of the best times of their lives. They feel so good. They have a euphoria when they breastfeed. The oxytocin levels go through the roof. There's an antidepressant. Sexual performance, sexual arousal. Your higher your oxytocin levels, your sexual arousal goes higher as well. It raises your libido. Social interactions. You trust and find people more attractive if your oxytocin levels go higher. So women looking at men think men are more trustworthy and more attractive when their oxytocin levels are higher. and it fosters pair bondings. Men will stand closer to their wives or to their partners when their oxytocin levels are high. They do more mate guarding. And when you're in love, your oxytocin levels go really high. How about that person who walks into the office and you're like, boy, you must have had a good night. Something must be going on good in your life. You can see when someone's in love. You see it in their faces when they're in love. Their oxytocin levels are high. Their pupils dilate. Do you recognize their pupils dilate when their oxytocin levels are high? No, probably not consciously, but subconsciously, you see their oxytocin levels are high because their pupils are dilated also. And oxytocin is unique. Of all those neurotransmitters I showed you, it's got a positive biofeedback loop. So when it goes up in your skin, it then goes up in your brain. Your brain releases more. Now that's not like the other neuropeptides aren't like that. They have a negative biofeedback loop, but oxytocin is different. So when you hug somebody, you feel good. Your oxytocin levels go up. When you get a massage, your oxytocin levels go up. When you pet a dog, your oxytocin levels go up. There's so many ways to naturally increase your oxytocin levels, and we all kind of realize it. When women's oxytocin levels go up, and they look at pictures of men that are masculinizes, in other words, their faces have a beard or a short or a round face, with a heavy brow, heavy cheeks, strong jaw. When they see men like this, they tend to find them more attractive. Oxytocin levels go up when they're ovulating. So they look at men that are more masculine, in theory, that have a good genes, and they find these men more attractive and more trustworthy, where they wouldn't find them necessarily attractive or trustworthy initially. So that's oxytocin, that's neuropeptides. But I want to talk about another skin hormone. That's a pheromone. Do pheromones exist in humans? It's controversial. In the animal kingdom, for sure. We know pheromones exist in the animal kingdom. That's how they signal reproductive receptivity. When they're ready to mate, they send out pheromones. But I believe they exist in humans. I think there's enough evidence that pheromones are released from the apical glands in the axilla and the genital region. They don't have to have odors, but oftentimes they do pick up odors. And there's 4 factors to these oxytocin, to these pheromones. Pheromones are able to be same-sex repellents. So an animal, urinates in the corner, pees in the corner, so the other animals know that this is their territory. They're opposite-sex attractants, and they also help a mother recognize her baby. Do you know that a mother, if you take a blanket and you wrap a baby in it, and you take the blanket, you put it in a box, and then you ask the mother just to smell through a hole in the box, she can pick up her baby. It's really incredible. And she'll know her baby from other babies because she can smell the blanket that her baby's in. Men can't do that, but women can do that. And women cycle at the same time. If there's no better evidence that pheromones exist, then how do women cycle at the same time? They're not telling me, I'm cycling this week, why don't you? They're sending out pheromones. Pheromones elicit. These are chemical messengers that elicit behaviors in others and change their physiological response. Isn't that incredible that we have that ability with each other when we're next to each other through pheromones? It happens subconsciously. So the opposite sex attractant, I find interesting. And men who are exposed to copulins. What are copulins? They're volatile fatty acids that women release when they're ovulating. If men smell these copulins, they find women more attractive. So I started thinking about this. Okay, if we have pheromones that can elicit physiological response in others, we have neurotransmitters that are synthesized in your skin, picked up in your skin, can stimulate increased neurotransmitter release from your pituitary gland. All of this happens at a subconscious level. All of this is going on with our skin. Something's up. Something's up that we haven't talked about. Our ability of our skin with this brain, our skin has a brain. It actually functions like its own little brain. So where this really became evident to me is during coronavirus. We all sat in these COVID caverns. We were separated, and we communicated by a virtual world. Our ad boards are virtually, our education, our teaching, and even for some of us, our socializing, especially for younger people, they were having to socialize via virtual world. Did you like that? First it seemed great, right? But soon it became pretty unfulfilling. It was devastating for many. We are social beings. We thrive when we're in the same environment. I don't like speaking into a computer today. I much prefer an in-person meeting. And how about teenagers? What happens to them during COVID? Do you know these numbers? And if you don't, and if you have children or grandchildren, you might want to know about this, that 57% of teenage girls are lonely, depressed, or anxiety. 30% consider suicide, and 13% attempted suicide during COVID. Do these numbers scare any of you? These are unbelievably large numbers that shows that we have a big issue here. When we separate, we're not together. Anxiety and depression goes up. We are meant to be together. So does our skin play a role? Does our skin play a role in how we communicate with each other? So in aesthetics, we talk about skin all the time. And we spend hours and hours in journals, and we focus on collagen and elastin and regenerative medicine to make our skin better. But we don't talk about this incredible value that our skin has as a communication device. We define our efficacy by the appearance of it and the collagen and elastin levels. But that doesn't tell me what my skin does for me. How does it make my life better? I think it's time for aesthetics to evolve. I think we've got to get to the next level and exploit this skin-brain axis. Take advantage of it. Make skin work for you. Skin to work for your patient. It's not about just making them beautiful. Now let's make our skin be a benefiting factor so that our lives are better. A pro-social skin. So I started thinking about this, and of course, I talked to my partner Sabrina about this. This is our pillow talk. And we said, can we do this? We put a bunch of stuff together, and can we exploit the skin-brain axis? So we played around. We went through multiple formulations to see if we can do this. We put something to increase oxytocin levels in the skin. You can't put oxytocin through the skin. It's too big of a molecule. It doesn't get through the skin. It's not stable. Usually it's given IV or by nasal spray. And lots of people offer it right now. But is there a way to stimulate the oxytocin levels in the skin? When you get a hug, your oxytocin levels go up. So we found a botanical that can increase oxytocin levels in the skin. Jasmine. Many of you know jasmine. It's got pleasing aromas. It's found in candles and perfumes and soaps and lotions. It's native to Asia. During ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, birthing, women are wearing it around their neck. So it's something that's common to many cultures. It's known for all these wonderful anxiolytic. It's put in baths. If you go in Asia, you put your feet in a bath, and it makes you feel good. So it's a botanical that's been around for a long time. But would you be surprised if I told you that oxytocin can also increase? Jasmine can also increase your oxytocin levels. How does jasmine increase oxytocin levels? Well, I found some articles that show that jasmine grandiflorium, one of the derivatives of jasmine, stimulates the Meissner corpuscles, or the piezo-1 mechanoreceptors in your skin to elevate oxytocin levels. I was like, wow, that's interesting. And that makes sense, because jasmine makes people feel good. We've been using it for a long time. These piezo-1 receptors are rather new. They were discovered in 2021. Nobel Prize was given out for them. So there's more and more studies coming out on the benefits of these mechanoreceptors and how they work. Then I found this carob. And carob is a digestive aid. Many people know about it from different cultures. The Mediterranean is very popular. It's a food substitute. Not to mention, it's also got all these wonderful properties of anxiolytic, analgesics, and maybe even aphrodisiac. I'm like, how is it an aphrodisiac? Where does carob, who says a food is an aphrodisiac? And there's not a lot of literature on what makes this thing an aphrodisiac. So I went knee-deep into the literature. I'm looking at the ecology literature. This is no PubMed. This is no ChatGPT search. This is going really deep. I wanted to figure out why carob is an aphrodisiac. And it's got this characteristic buttery odor that's made up of isobutyric acid. What's isobutyric acid? Isobutyric acid is the most common volatile fatty acid in a copula that women secrete during ovulation. I was like, there's the connection. Isobutyric acid from carob is a derivative of carob. And copulins are secreted by primates. I talked about that earlier. So copulins are pheromones. Isobutyric acid is the pheromone in the copulin. It's the most common volatile fatty acid within the pheromone, within these copulins, which then stimulate a response in the opposite sex. And it correlates with the menstrual cycle. When women ovulate, it peaks, and when they're postmenopausal, it goes down. All makes sense. And men, when they smell isobutyric acid, they think they're more attractive, which is kind of interesting, right? So a man is sitting around, there's a bunch of women ovulating, he's like, hey, women have behavior changes when she's ovulating. You may not realize this, but there's plenty of studies on this. If you guys follow me on TikTok, and I talk about this all the time. I got loads of people wanting to ask me questions about this. But men and women change their behaviors when they're ovulating. When she's ovulating, he may stand closer to her pupils dilate, he opens up his chest, women flip their hair. There's signaling that goes on subconsciously that allows us to communicate with each other. So we put all these things together, we decided to put it to the test in a rigorously designed, double-blind, placebo, randomized crossover trial. Who does that in topicals? Do you want to tell me other papers that do studies like this? It's not that often. Cosmeceuticals don't have to do this. Topicals don't have to do this. It's not required to. But we really wanted to see what would happen if we really put it to test. Between Sabrina and I, we've done over 350 clinical trials. We really know how to design a well-designed trial to really test something out. 40 patients, 30 got active, 10 got placebo. And we looked at skin quality assessments, of course, but we also wanted to look at soft measures, psychosocial measures, to see if we can show improvement. What were our results? Well, 39 completed the trial, 1 dropped out because of pregnancy. The premise is already proven, right? And then we had 2 who had to tell their parents they weren't pregnant. I mean, these people looked like their skin was so glowing and radiant. Skin quality scores, statistically significant in 7 out of 8 categories. Excuse me, 7 out of 8 categories, statistically significant. And not just a little statistically significant, 0.001. I mean, that's highly statistically significant. The only thing that wasn't was wrinkles, which was only 8-week study, so I wouldn't expect wrinkles to get better in 8 weeks. It shouldn't. There was no significance in placebo, 0. Evenness, smoothness, radiance, dewiness, less redness, less dryness. I thought that was pretty impressive. Got better from 4 to 8 weeks. Here's some pictures, before and afters. I can show you a lot more, but that's not the point I want to get across. These are the things I was more interested in, not the skin quality. The skin-brain axis. Do women find men more attractive after wearing a topical product that can maybe stimulate neurotransmitters in the skin? 7 out of 8 men became more attractive. So they looked at these men at the beginning of the trial. 8 weeks later, they look at them again. 7 out of 8 of these men became more attractive. Placebo, only 1 out of 8. Once again, highly statistically significant. It's like, wow, that's interesting. Then, do they make a better first impression? So we looked at things like, do other people looking at them think they make a better first impression? 5 out of 8 categories, statistically significant. All 8 categories went up. Placebo, 0. No categories went up. And they look 3 years younger. Highly statistically significant. Once again, skin looked good. But is there something else translating in the way they feel about themselves? So we looked at the face skew, another validated scale. They feel more comfortable on people they don't know. Which makes sense because if you're feeling more social, and we're giving you a product that we want to increase your social lubrication, so to speak, well, yeah, you're going to feel more comfortable with people like this. 86% confidence went up. Also, 4 to 8 weeks. And this is the one that really blew everyone away. I wasn't going to talk about this. And when I put this in there, Sabrina was giving me a hard time. She's like, no, don't do this. I'm like, no, I really want to check sexual satisfaction. No one ever does that. Let's look at what happens in sexual satisfaction. Do you know right now the sexual health and wellness field is growing like crazy? Our field's growing like crazy. The two are starting to merge as you're starting to see we're overlapping. If I took a validated scale from the sexual health and wellness literature and I tested it, what would happen? I don't think I've seen anyone ever do this in any of our topical products. So I use this new sexual satisfaction scale. It's highly reliable, highly accurate. What would happen after 8 weeks of wearing product? 90% of categories were statistically significant, 18 out of 20. I couldn't believe this. Look at some of the things that were asked. Intensity of your sexual arousal, frequency of sexual activity, quality of orgasms, frequency of orgasms. I almost am embarrassed to say all these things. Improved sexual functioning, better mood after sexual activity. All this, and 90% of categories. What was placebo? 0. So, now that's unusual. I'm like, this must be a mistake. So I took it back to the statistician. I'm like, I think you made a mistake. She's like, no. I tested again, it worked. Not only that, we looked at the partners. So the partners of these women also reported better sexual satisfaction in these 5 categories. So I'm thinking to myself, hey guys, Valentine's Day, forget the flowers. Give the gift that works for both. So I thought that was pretty impressive. So we published all this. If you want this paper, I published it in JCD. I have it here. I brought a few copies with me. I'm happy to give it to you. But the point I want to make of this is maybe it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call. At least it was to me. We have a generation wanting to connect again. They want to come back. They want to get together. And not in the virtual world. Not on social media. Not on the phone. In person. In the real world. I have daughters. They're like, Dad, why can't we go on dates anymore? Boys don't want to take us on dates. They want to meet each other. I did a speed dating event in Chicago 2 months ago. It was fantastic. The people love being participating in the speed dating event. We want to connect again. We are social beings. So let's connect again. And this is where I think aesthetic medicine has to change or evolve. Let's design our studies to have a direct effect. Not just on appearance. We did that. That's first order. That's aesthetic medicine. That's the history of aesthetic medicine. Make people look better. That's how I was trained. It's all about how they look. But then we started getting at things like patient-reported outcomes, like confidence and self-esteem. Are they happy? That was second order. Then there was third order. Do they make a better first impression? Observer-reported outcomes. Do other people think they look natural? But here's where I think we're going next, and here's where I want to help move it forward, is what's coming next is, I think, is pro-social. Aesthetic medicine that works for you. Tell my patients, I'm not just going to make you look better. I'm not going to just make you feel better. I'm not going to make other people think you look better. I'm going to make your life better. Your social interaction will be better, and I'm going to prove it. So I'd like to start putting that into our clinical trials and think about the influence and impact that will have in aesthetics if we can start to prove that as well. So the future of aesthetics, in my opinion, is harnessing the power of this skin-brain axis that we hardly ever talk about, that we don't really recognize is there, that we're just learning about. And I think it's arrived. If you want to ask more questions afterwards, please feel free to grab it. I brought some papers. I'll give you the papers if you want. I got loads of stuff in my articles that I have to share with you. Email me if you want.
And that was amazing. And I just want to comment before I turn it back over to Brian. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology, so everything is peer-reviewed by 2 people. This article had 6 because it was a different article. And I'm like, okay, I know them, so that makes it a problem to begin with. And if I get 2, it's going to be a problem because somebody's going to say there's a bias. We sent that one out to 6. And it was amazing, the response back. So I just wanted to tell you. Great job.
But as always, Steve delivered. Interesting, something to think about for sure. Lots of really next level things. You're always thinking ahead and helping us with things. That's great. And you said that you were going to bring samples for it.
Just for your wife.
You'll have a booth next year.
So listen, Steve, we really appreciate you making the time to come here. We love having you. Add to your collection of scale plaques for the 20th annual meeting. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.